Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Let me just start kind of with the most newsy thing, which is the Marcus Maye suspension. Yeah. Timing of it, was this expected that it was going to come down now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. When he finally made his plea deal in late August, that paved the way and that started the process. But, you know, it has to be ruled on. There has to be time for an appeal. I don't know if he actually did appeal. I don't know if his appeal was heard. But I remember saying at the time, I don't think this can be done by week one. And it wasn't done by week one, but it was done soon after. So, I mean, I think it was inevitable it was going to come at a certain time of the season. It stinks because he was playing pretty well to start the year, and the defense is obviously playing lights out, so you don't want to throw any wrench into that. But I guess you could say it's a good thing because they're fully healthy on defense outside of Peyton Turner's injury. So, you know, they've got all the backups. It's not like they're down 3 DBs in this game or something like what we saw at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. Does it make the most sense that Jordan Hoden, the rookie 5th-round pick from Minnesota, replaces Marcus Maye for the 3 games while he's out?
Yeah, I made this point on the show last night. I mean, when you see that they're going from their experienced veteran starter to the rookie 5th-round pick, it feels like, oh, geez, you know, they're not really fortified at this position. But they do have a ton of veteran options, and Jordan Hoden earned his way above them. I mean, they signed both Lonnie Johnson Jr. and Jonathan Abram, experienced NFL starters, early in free agency, and Johnson is going to play in this game, and Jonathan Abram is currently on the practice squad. I don't know if he'll get promoted on game day or not. They also have Ugo Amadi. He's mostly been playing in the slot, but he's an experienced starting NFL safety. J.T. Gray's been around this defense for years. So they have tons of options, and Howden beat them out for this role. And he was also the one who was playing real defensive snaps the first 2 weeks. He played as their dime back. He played 26 snaps in the first 2 games.
That was the old P.J. Williams role. So I mean, it's
exactly.
And last year when Marcus Maye was out, we saw P.J. play.
And speaking of P.J. Williams, he's a phone call away if they were desperate at this position, but they're not. They're pretty deep.
Oh, please don't go there. Please don't. Let's not go back there, please. Let that era be done. Hey, let's. The other sort of, I guess, personnel issue this week would be running back. With Jamal Williams hasn't practiced yet this week. It's as of Thursday. Kendre Miller was full. So how do they look there, Mike? I mean, they're thin, but how do they look going into Green Bay?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the timing is really good that Williams goes down, but Kendre Miller is ready to come back. Miller would have come back this week no matter what. He's supposed to come back next week. I don't know what kind of workload he's ready to sustain. I don't know, you know, how rusty he'll be after missing the last 3 weeks of the hamstring injury. It kind of, you know, stinks that he wasn't fully healthy for this 3-game stretch without Alvin Kamara, and especially for this game without Kamara and Jamal Williams, because, you know, it would have been a huge opportunity for him. But he'll be part of the mix. Tony Jones Jr. will be part of the mix. Maybe Tony Jones Jr. will be the one they trust more in pass protection. And Taysom Hill will be part of the mix, and frankly, they had to turn to that out of desperation, making him actually line up as a tailback. But that's something we talked about this offseason. You know, show me the game where Taysom Hill gets 10 carries and it doesn't work, because I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's a great point. It was perplexing why he didn't touch the ball more in the season opener. Mike Triplett is with us. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett, neworleans.football. Of course, our Convos with Mike every Thursday, brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Mike, what the offensive, I don't want to say inability, but inefficiency, maybe the lack of scoring is kind of perplexing. How easy is this to fix, to rectify?
It's a good question. I think it really comes down to the offensive line. I mean, that's been the problem. They're just not holding up in pass protection. Their run game stunk in week 1. I thought it got better in week 2, but then obviously they had the injury to Jamal Williams. But if they can't protect for Derek Carr, I mean, he's either abandoning throws or you know, getting hit as he throws and it's affecting his throws, or you know, getting sacked 8 times through 2 games already, and they've got to fix that. I think they were better in that area. I think Trevor Penning played better. I thought they, gave him more help, more chipping. But, all those big plays, are kind of making up for the early inefficient drives. We expect so much more from this offense. We know the playmakers are there. We know Derek Carr can look better than he's looked. So I would think it's as simple as, I expect it to get fixed sooner than later, but it really comes down to the offensive line. I don't think they should be a season-long liability, but it's been a struggle so far.
They've also converted just 37% of their red zone trips into touchdowns. A very obvious one, Mike, is where is Jimmy Graham? Why is he on this team if you don't target him in the red zone?
Well, I mean, it's Jimmy Graham and Foster Moreau, and it's Jawan Johnson. He had 3 catches in the first game, maybe 4 if they would have replayed that one that they didn't need to replay because of the penalty. And it's thrown to running backs. That's not a part of this offense either. I mean, they've really only got one thing working for the offense, which is the desperation deep throw. They did have a healthy dose of Mike Thomas earlier in the game, 7 catches in the first half, which was great to see and helped sustain him. But I agree that the red zone has been a problem, but I don't think it's just been the red zone. I just think it's been an inefficient offense overall that's bailing itself out with big plays late in games.
Well, the defense has bailed them out as well because they've been awesome. You've watched and covered this team for a very long time, so put some context around it. It's 2 games, but give me some context through 2 games of just how good they've looked defensively.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we've seen this in recent years. I mean, I think in particular that hideous 2021 season, the one where they went into Tampa Bay and won 9-0. Dennis Allen basically got his job for that reason, and the first team to shut out Tom Brady in whatever it was, 15 years. I think at that end of that last season, second half of that season, they were playing probably the best defense that I had seen in this entire era. And I thought it waned a little bit last year, and I thought maybe it would not quite be to that level this year because of guys like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis getting older and a lot of new guys on the defensive line. But man, we've seen this peak level from them, and it looks like they can keep this up as long as those guys are still drinking from the fountain of youth. Marshawn Lattimore's playing as good as he's ever played before. I think Tyrann Mathieu really found himself in his second year in this system. I think the secondary is just really loaded. And the defensive line's getting the job done. That's where we had a question mark, but all these guys who are in elevated roles, Carl Granderson's playing lights out, Malcolm Roach is playing lights out, Brian Brzee has stepped in right away and made a contribution. Cam Jordan still looks great. I think that was one big question mark we had on the team, and they're really holding up their end.
A couple more for you, Mike. Specifically going to Lambeau against a Packers team with a new-ish starting quarterback in Jordan Love. What is the challenge for the Saints defense this Sunday against the Packers?
Yeah, I want to see what their final injury report looks like Friday, because I think this would be a real challenge if they were at full strength, but we don't know if they'll have Aaron Jones, their top running back. We don't know if they'll have Christian Watson, their top receiver. We don't know if they'll have David Bakhtiari, their top offensive lineman. So it's not going to be as threatening as it could have been when if those guys were all fully healthy. And look, Jordan Love is the big question mark in this offense. But it's not a rebuilding team. It's been a very good team. They just lost Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur is one of the better offensive coaches in this game, and he's been there for several years. So this isn't anything like what we just saw with the unproven quarterback last week, surrounded by a new coaching staff and an unproven offensive line. I think it's a real offense. Am I right that Jordan Love is it not thrown an interception yet this season? So he hasn't looked like an inexperienced guy. They fought Atlanta hard. I watched a lot of that game last week since I got to watch the games on Sunday. It's a real opponent. It's not going to be a free. And they're actually Green Bay is actually favored by 2 points in this game. So it's a real test for them. It's going to be their biggest test yet, I think. 6 touchdowns, no picks for Jordan Love through the 2 games. The 1-1 start for the Packers. So, Mike, one more. I know it's 2 games and you've beaten Ryan Tannehill and Bryce Young, but at what point do you look at the Saints as one of the 9 undefeated teams in the NFL, or
or in the NFC and say, okay, well, they're real. They're a real contender in the NFC, as opposed to just being a good team in a bad division, which I know is what I thought at the beginning of the season and maybe still do.
Well, we'll have to see if they can answer that offensive question you asked me. We think this offense actually has potential to be special with those three receivers playing the way they're playing, with Alvin Kamara coming back next week. I think Derek Carr should be good enough to get the ball in the hands of all those playmakers if he has enough time, and the offensive line should be good enough to give him time. But even if the offense is just, average, I think they are a real team that has as good a chance as most in the NFC outside of really Dallas and Philadelphia and San Francisco maybe. I think they're in that next tier. But even if the Saints are sort of the shaky team that's barely winning like we've seen before, I don't know when that's going to stop either, because I'm not going to pick them to lose next week at home against Tampa Bay. I probably won't pick them to lose at New England. That's a sort of tough test like Green Bay is this week. I'm not going to pick them to lose to Houston. I'm not going to pick them to lose to Chicago. I'm not going to pick them to lose to Indianapolis. I mean, the schedule is going to let them get off to a really good start.
Look at the quarterbacks they play. I mean, we have been talking about it for a long time here. It is a very, very manageable slate for this team, like you said, to get off to a really good start. Mike Triplett, neworleans.football. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett, and our convos every week are brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Mike, we appreciate it as always, man. Enjoy the weekend. Looking forward to next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.